She didn't break your heart. She broke your reality. That hollow ache you feel, that cold, sinking dread in the pit of your stomach, that isn't the noble pain of lost love. It's the visceral, biological alarm of an organism that has been deemed unfit. It is the primal rejection of weakness. The moment your need for her validation eclipsed your own purpose, you ceased to exist as a man in her world. You became a ghost, a weight, a problem to be managed, and, eventually, discarded. Attraction is not a democratic process. It is a brutal, instantaneous verdict delivered by the oldest, most reptilian part of the brain, a part that has no room for pity or second chances. And its verdict on you was absolute. You were found guilty of the highest crime in the court of human connection, neediness. You outsourced your sense of self. You handed her the keys to your emotional state, and then acted surprised when she drove away, leaving you stranded in the wasteland of your own making. She didn't just walk away from you. She fled the suffocating vacuum of a man who had placed his center of gravity inside of her. You can still feel it, can't you? The phantom heat of the phone in your palm, a modern-day torture device. Your thumb, a traitor to your own dignity, hovering over her contact photo. You compulsively reread your last message, a pathetic monologue of thinly veiled desperation masquerading as a casual question. The words stare back at you from the screen, exposed, weak, and begging for an answer that will never come. And then, the two ticks turn blue. Read, a digital tombstone. A confirmation not just that she saw your message, but that she saw you. She saw your weakness, your lack of self-control, your gaping need for her approval. And in that moment of seeing, she made a conscious, strategic decision. Silence. That silence was not a void. It was an action. It was a weapon, calibrated with chilling precision to communicate utter and complete indifference. It was a statement of power, a declaration that your emotional state was irrelevant to her. She didn't just leave you, she systematically dismantled your psyche. With every unanswered call that went to voicemail, with every text left unread, with every calculated, dismissive gesture, she was teaching you a lesson you refused to learn. You were not in control. You gave her the schematics to your own mind, and she methodically pulled out every load-bearing wall just to watch you collapse under the weight of your own dependency. You told yourself you were fighting for a future with her, but you were merely a supplicant begging for a crumb of her attention, a temporary fix to quiet the screaming void within. The Stoics understood this battlefield of the mind 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote in his private journal not about conquering nations, but about conquering himself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You believe your suffering is caused by her actions, by her rejection. This is the fundamental lie that keeps you weak. Your pain does not stem from her indifference. It stems from your insane belief that you required her approval to be whole. Her rejection is merely an external event. Your devastation is a choice. It is the result of a mind that you have failed to master. You have been handed a gift, wrapped in the barbed wire of humiliation, the gift of catastrophic, undeniable failure. It is the only force in the universe potent enough to shatter the fragile prison of illusions you have mistaken for a life. You believed your happiness was a prize she held in her hands. With her silence, she has proven, with devastating finality, that you were wrong. She has shown you, with a clarity that should burn, that the throne of your own inner kingdom has been vacant, and you, its rightful king, were on your knees begging a foreign power to come and rule over you. This is your ground zero, the emotional bedrock. From this pit of humiliation, the only possible direction is up. But we are not here to heal. Healing is for victims. We are here to reforge, to alchemize. We will take the shame, the gut-wrenching anxiety, the white-hot rage of being deemed worthless, and we will smelt it in the furnace of discipline. We will burn away the weakness, the dependency, the pathetic need for her, and from the slag, we will forge an alloy of pure, unshakable, self-contained purpose. The man who checked his phone every 30 seconds. The man whose mood was dictated by a notification. The man who sent that last pleading text. That man dies today. In his place, we will construct a fortress of self-mastery. A man whose validation is generated internally, whose mission is his own, and whose indifference is no longer a practiced tactic, but a fundamental, unshakable reality. She thought she was burying a memory. She had no idea she was planting the seed of a man she is not equipped to handle. So the question is not, and never was, how do you get her back? The real question is this. After this transformation is complete, would you even want the woman who was only capable of being attracted to the weak, hollowed-out man you once were? Before we begin to weaponize this pain and build the new you from the ground up, I demand you take your first strategic action. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion. Activate all notifications, because every video is a weapon for your arsenal. Give this video a like to signal your commitment to this war. And in the comments below, I want a report from the front lines. Tell me two things. What country are you watching this from? And what was the specific moment of humiliation that finally brought you here? Do not see this as a confession. See it as a declaration. The old you is now on record as being terminated. The operation begins now. Let's perform an autopsy. Not on a relationship. That was merely the symptom. We are here to dissect the death of your authority. This will not be a comforting process. There will be no anesthesia. You will look at the cold, hard facts of your own strategic failure, and you will recognize the precise moments where you slit your own throat. You believe this was a slow, tragic decline, a misunderstanding, a case of growing apart. You are wrong. This was a hostile takeover of your reality, and you not only handed the enemy the keys, you showed them the schematics to the vault. The fall was not a single, catastrophic event. It was a series of small, almost imperceptible surrenders. Each one seemed insignificant, a minor compromise made in the name of peace or love. But in the brutal calculus of power dynamics, they were tactical defeats. Each concession was a brick removed from the foundation of her respect for you. It began with the first test. It always does. It was likely a small thing. She was in a bad mood, a cloud of vague discontent hanging over her. You had plans. Plans you had made for yourself, with your friends, or for your own work. Plans that were part of your world, your mission. She didn't forbid you from going. She didn't have to. She simply let her displeasure be known. A sigh. A short answer. The subtle, yet unmistakable chill in the air. This was the test. The question being asked was not, "Do you love me?" The question, on a primal, unspoken level, was whose reality is stronger, yours or mine? And you, wanting to be the good guy, wanting to soothe her, made the fatal error. You conceded. You changed your plans. You offered to stay in, to watch a movie, to do whatever would make her feel better. In that moment, you believed you were demonstrating care. What you actually demonstrated was that her emotional state had veto power over your life. You taught her that her feelings were more important than your commitments. She tested. You yielded. She won. This was the first domino. From this point forward, every interaction was built on that precedent. Your world was negotiable, hers was not. From this first concession, the cancer of dependency metastasized. You began to preemptively manage her emotions. Before making any decision, a subconscious calculation would run in your mind. How will she feel about this? Your own desires, your own goals, were now filtered through the lens of her potential approval or disapproval. This is the second stage, the loss of your own frame. You stopped leading, you started managing. Remember that argument about where to go for dinner? It wasn't about the food, it was about control. You offered a suggestion. She countered with a non-committal "I don't know," or "I don't mind," but her tone said otherwise. So you began a pathetic dance of appeasement, offering up restaurant after restaurant, each one shot down with passive-aggressive indifference, until you finally landed on the one she wanted all along. You thought you were being patient. You were actually being trained. You were a subject in her psychological experiment. And the hypothesis being proven was that with enough subtle pressure, you would abandon your own preferences entirely, just to secure her fleeting approval. This pattern bled into every area of your life. Your friends noticed you became less available. Your hobbies gathered dust. Your personal projects stalled. You were slowly, systematically reorienting your entire existence around her, like a dying planet caught in the gravitational pull of a black hole. You are no longer the center of your own universe. You are a satellite orbiting hers. This leads directly to the next stage, the insatiable hunger for validation. Once you've outsourced your decision-making, you inevitably outsource your self-worth. Her validation became your oxygen. A good morning text from her could make your day. A delayed response could send you into a spiral of anxiety. You became a digital archaeologist, excavating meaning from the timing of her replies, the emojis she used, the tone you imagined behind her words. That phone in your hand became a remote control for your emotional state, and she held it. You lived in a state of perpetual, low-grade anxiety, waiting for the next hit of her attention to reassure you that you still existed in her world. Her silence is dominance, not disinterest. When she would go quiet, it was not an absence of communication. It was a strategic deployment of a weapon. It was designed to make you feel the void of her absence, to make you desperate, to make you break first, and you always did. The double text. The "is everything okay" message. Each one was a signal of your weakness, a confirmation that you were more invested, that you needed her more than she needed you. You were a supplicant begging for scraps from her table, and the more you begged, the less she was inclined to give. You were caught in a feedback loop of your own making. Your neediness repulsed her. Her repulsion caused her to pull away, and her distance amplified your neediness. She wasn't just rejecting you. She was instinctively recoiling from the vacuum of a man who had no core of his own. The ultimate act of self-immolation was the apology. Not an apology for a genuine wrongdoing, but an apology to end a conflict that she likely initiated. She would create a problem, often out of thin air, a manufactured drama designed to test your resolve. She would accuse you of being distant, of not caring enough, of some imagined slight. Your rational mind knew it was absurd. But you couldn't stand the tension. The discomfort of her displeasure was so great that you chose the path of least resistance. You said the two words that sealed your fate. "I'm sorry." You apologized for her feelings. You took responsibility for her emotional instability. When you apologized, you signed your surrender. You validated her distorted reality and invalidated your own. You communicated, in the clearest possible terms, that in any conflict between her perception and objective truth, her perception would win. You gave her the power to define reality for both of you. From that point on, you were no longer an equal partner. You were a subject in her court, perpetually on trial, for crimes you never committed, begging for a pardon that would only be granted temporarily, until the next test. Now, I can hear the objections brewing in your mind, the rationalizations you've used to sedate yourself, but I was just trying to be a good partner. I believe in compromise. Isn't love about putting the other person first? Let's dismantle these fallacies with the cold, hard truth. You were not being a good partner. You were being a subordinate. You were not compromising. You were capitulating. And love is not about erasing yourself for another person. That is codependency. True, masculine love is about providing a stable, unshakable reality in which a woman can feel safe. A rock, not a puddle. By constantly molding yourself to her every emotional whim, you created a world of chaos. You became unpredictable, unreliable, a man without a spine. A woman cannot trust, and therefore cannot feel attraction for, a man she can easily manipulate. Her tests were a subconscious plea for you to demonstrate strength, to hold your frame, to show her that you were a man of substance who would not be easily swayed. She tested you, and you failed. You mistook her search for a solid container for a request to be a doormat. You thought she wanted a servant, when what she craved was a king. Your failure was not in your actions but in your intent. Your kindness was not born from a place of genuine overflowing strength, but from a place of fear. Fear of her anger, fear of her withdrawal, fear of being alone. Every nice gesture was a transaction. You were buying her affection, paying for her approval, bribing her to stay. And, just like any currency in an inflated economy, the value of your gestures plummeted. The more you gave, the less it was worth. The grander the apologies, the more pathetic they seemed. You were operating from a position of scarcity, and she could smell it on you. Attraction is not a negotiation. It is a primal response to perceived value. And by constantly signaling that you needed her more than you needed your own self-respect, you broadcasted to the most ancient part of her brain that your value was zero. So, before we proceed to reforge the very foundations of your identity, we must document the full extent of this strategic failure. This is your next command. Go to the comments section and answer this question. What was the very first test you now recognize you failed? What was that initial, seemingly small concession that set this entire catastrophic chain of events in motion? Do not be vague. Be specific. Was it canceling plans? Apologizing for something you didn't do? Paying for something you knew she could afford? Write it down. This is not a confession. It is an after-action report. And while you are there, subscribe to Psychological Dominion, activate all notifications, like this video. This is not a request. It is the first step in reclaiming your agency. You will take deliberate, conscious action. The passive, reactive man you were is being executed right now with every word you read. The most insidious part of this entire process is that it happened in silence. Your authority wasn't lost in a shouting match. It bled out in 1,000 quiet hesitations. It died in the pause before you agreed to something you didn't want to do. It was buried in the text you typed, deleted, and then retyped to sound less demanding. She saw it all. She saw the flicker of conflict in your eyes before you yielded. She felt the weakness in your voice when you apologized for standing your ground. The silence she gave you at the end was not the cause of the breakup. It was the coronation of her victory. Her silence is dominance, not disinterest. It was the final, contemptuous statement that you were so irrelevant to her reality that you were not even worthy of a response. You were a ghost, a notification to be swiped away. You were dismissed. And in the face of that ultimate dismissal, you broke your own silence with a final, pleading message, confirming everything she already believed to be true about you. You failed the final test. You proved, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that you had no power, no self-control, and no dignity without her. Realize this now, with every fiber of your being. No one is coming to save you. The person who needs to save you is the same one who destroyed you, and the work starts now. There is no going back for the weak. There is only the construction of the new. Let that sink into your bones. The man who was discarded, the man who begged, the man whose reality shattered. He is a liability. He is dead weight. Any attempt to resuscitate him, to win her back from his position of weakness, is an act of strategic suicide. You are not here to repair a broken structure. You are here to demolish the ruins, salt the earth, and build a fortress on the ashes. This is not a process of healing. This is a protocol of reconstruction. It is tactical. It is cold. It is the restoration of absolute personal dominion. This protocol has 3 core commands, and they are non-negotiable. They are your new religion. Command 1, cut the excess. Command 2, install silence. Command 3, control the reaction. This is not a list of suggestions. This is the blueprint for your rebirth. The first command is to cut the excess. This is a scorched earth policy. You will immediately, and without announcement, cease all forms of contact. This is not the weak, passive-aggressive, no-contact rule you read about on pathetic forums where men wait by the phone, hoping their silence will be noticed. This is a surgical amputation. You will block her number. You will block her on every social media platform. You will delete every photo, every conversation thread, every digital ghost that haunts your devices. This is not for her. This is for you. It is a decontamination protocol. Every second you spend looking at her online profile is a second you are feeding her your energy. Every time you check to see if she's watched your story, you are transmitting a signal of need. You are bleeding out power. You must cauterize the wound. This first step is the most brutal because your addiction will scream for a fix. The dopamine withdrawal will feel like a physical illness. You will be tempted to just check, to see what she's doing, to see if she's happy without you. This is the weak man trying to claw his way out of his grave. You must kill him again and again, every single hour of every single day. This abrupt and total disappearance is the reinstallation of scarcity. When you were constantly available, constantly orbiting her, you had the value of tap water. By vanishing completely, you become an unknown quantity. You cease to be a predictable, manageable problem for her and become a void. A question mark. Be an absence that has weight, not a presence that begs. Your focus must be relentlessly redirected. The hours you spent stalking her social media are now spent in the gym, forging a new body. The mental energy you wasted deciphering her texts is now invested in your work, your business, your mission. You are not waiting, you are building. The second command, install silence. Your silence is not an absence of communication. It is the most powerful communication you can make. Her final act of leaving you on read was a statement of dominance. It was a declaration that your emotional state was beneath her notice. Any attempt you make to communicate now is an act of subordination. It is you, once again, begging for a space in her reality. Therefore, your silence must be more absolute, more profound, and more unshakable than hers ever was. Don't reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. If she, in a moment of boredom or curiosity, attempts to breach your new perimeter with a breadcrumb, a hey text, a reaction to an old photo, your response is nothing. You do not reply. You do not acknowledge it. You give it the same attention you would give a falling leaf. 0. By not responding, you seize control of the frame. You communicate that her attempts to solicit a reaction from you are irrelevant. She has been downgraded from a priority to a non-entity. This is where most men fail. They see a text from her as a sign of hope, a chance to quote, fix things. They immediately crumble, responding with an eager, pathetic message that instantly annihilates any mystery or power they might have built. They prove that they were just waiting for her all along. Your silence proves the opposite. It proves you have moved on to a reality in which she no longer has a speaking role. Your silence says, I am the one who decides who gets access to me now. You failed the audition. This is not a game of waiting for her to miss you. This is the act of making yourself so completely engrossed in your own mission that her existence becomes a distant, unimportant memory. The third command, control the reaction. This is the inner war, the one that truly matters. The first two commands are external actions. This one is the complete re-engineering of your mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Your objective is not to make her feel pain, but to reach a state where her actions, thoughts, and feelings have zero impact on your emotional state. You must become the stoic fortress. When you think of her, you are not to indulge in fantasies of her returning, nor in angry tirades about how she wronged you. Both are a waste of your most valuable resource, your focus. Instead, you are to view her rejection as a valuable, albeit brutal, piece of market data. The market, in this case the primal dynamic of attraction, found your product, the old you, to be deficient. It lacked value. It was needy. It was weak. Thank the market for this feedback. It has given you the blueprint for what you must eliminate from your own character. You will alchemize the humiliation into fuel. The anxiety you feel will be channeled into your workout until your muscles scream. The anger will be focused into your work until you are out-competing every rival. You control the reaction by assigning a new meaning to the pain. The pain is no longer a sign of your worthlessness. It is now the engine of your transformation. The ultimate power is not making her want you again. The ultimate power is reaching a point where her wanting you or not wanting you is as relevant to your happiness as the weather in a foreign country. A man who wants to be loved will be discarded. A man who imposes his presence will be feared. And presence is built not by chasing, but by a relentless, obsessive focus on your own hierarchy. Your physical power, your financial dominance, your social influence, and your symbolic status. This is your new mission. It is not a hope. It is a plan of attack. This reconstruction is a declaration of war on your former self. Every part of this process is designed to build a man who is so fundamentally different from the one she left that the two could not coexist in the same room. Now, I command you to take your next strategic step. Reinforce your commitment to this war. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion. Activate all notifications so you never miss a vital briefing. Give this video a like to signal your enlistment. And in the comments below, you will file your first field report. I want you to answer this question with brutal honesty. Of the three core fronts for building power, your physical body, your financial status, or your social influence, which one have you neglected the most while you were orbiting her? Name your primary battlefield. This is not a confession of weakness. It is the targeting data we will use to plan your assault. The time for observation is over. The time for action is now. We have arrived at the endgame. This is not about winning her back. That was the objective of the weak man you executed. This is about the final, irreversible consolidation of your power. It is the moment you graduate from student of your pain to its absolute master. The reconstruction protocol was designed for a single purpose: to forge a man so grounded in his own reality that no external force can shake him. And now the final test will inevitably present itself. The universe will always test your resolve. It will send her back into your orbit, not as a prize to be won, but as a final exam to be passed. It may be at a coffee shop, a mutual friends gathering, or a ghost from your phone suddenly materializing with a message. The scenario is irrelevant. The test is always the same. Imagine the scene. You are moving through the world, not with the frantic, anxious energy of your past self, but with the calm, deliberate economy of motion that comes from a man who knows his purpose. Your focus is on your mission. She is a variable you have long since deleted from your equation, and then you see her. For a fraction of a second, the ghost of the old you will stir. The biological memory of neediness will send a faint signal. This is the critical moment. The weak man would see this as an opportunity. He would try to display his newfound success, to subtly signal that he is doing better now. He would engage, hoping she sees the change, hoping for a flicker of regret in her eyes. This is the final, most seductive trap, the desire to be seen as the victor asterisk by the person who defeated you. To pass this test, you must understand that her opinion is not only irrelevant, it is poison. Her validation is the one thing that can undo all of your work. She will approach. She will notice the change. It will be undeniable. It's not just the way you look, the physical armor you've built in the gym. It's the way you occupy space. It's the absence of that desperate, pleading energy she found so repulsive. You are no longer a satellite orbiting her. You are your own center of gravity, and she can feel the pull. She will speak. Her words will be a carefully calibrated probe, designed to find a crack in your new foundation. You look good. I've been thinking about you. I heard you're doing great things. These are not compliments. They are weapons. They are attempts to re-establish the old dynamic, where her approval was the currency you craved. The old you would have latched onto these words. like a starving man finding a crumb. But the man you are now does not operate on her currency. You operate on your own. Your response is the final move in this psychological war. It is not anger. It is not arrogance. It is not a cold shoulder. Those are all reactions. They are emotional. They signal that she still has the power to affect you. Your response is a calm, polite, and utterly impenetrable indifference. You will look at her, not with the memory of a shared past, but as you would a stranger making small talk in an elevator. You give her nothing. No extended conversation. No questions about her life. No hint of bitterness or triumph. Your interaction is brief, detached, and immediately forgettable, because your mind is already back on what truly matters: your mission. You treat the encounter with the same priority you would give to tying your shoe, a minor, necessary interruption before you resume your path. She is no longer the main character in your story. She is not even a supporting character. She is a name in the credits of a film you are no longer watching. This is the moment the board truly flips. But you do not stay to play the new game. You simply walk away from the table. Her power was always predicated on your investment in the outcome. When she sees that you are genuinely, fundamentally, and irreversibly divested, the entire dynamic collapses. She will feel a sense of psychological vertigo. The man whose entire emotional state she once controlled now looks at her with the mild, impersonal curiosity of a scientist observing a specimen. She will be the one left replaying the conversation. She will be the one analyzing your tone. She will be the one feeling the sting of indifference. You did not seek this revenge. Revenge is an emotional goal, and you have transcended it. This is not revenge. This is a consequence. It is the natural outcome of a man who has reclaimed his own soul. The ultimate power is not making her want you again. The ultimate power is to arrive at a place where her desire is completely irrelevant to your state of being. You must burn this into your mind. The respect you craved was never something she could give you. It was something you had to take for yourself. You don't command respect by demanding it, by arguing for it, or by performing for it. You impose it. You impose it with your absence. You impose it with your discipline. You impose it with a relentless, unshakable focus on your own ascent. She was never the prize. She was the crucible. She was the fire that was necessary to burn away the weak, dependent shell you mistook for a man, revealing the core of steel that was always within. Thank her for that, silently, and then move on. Your legacy is not defined by who you loved, but by what you built. This is your final command. This is the declaration that seals your transformation. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion. Activate every notification, because this is your new command center. Give this video a like as a final salute to the man you left behind, and in the comments below answer this one, final question, not for me, but for you. What is the single greatest thing you will now build with the energy you once wasted on her? Name the empire. Is it a business? A body of iron? A legacy of knowledge? Declare it. Make it real. She didn't break your heart. She revealed your mission.